He might kick him out.
You are videoing this for the, okay.
We're good.
You don't need any? Okay. Good enough. Just wait. Well, yeah, you want me to put him in?
Yeah, thank you. I didn't put on who they were for. But I work hard. I want one for each man.
They'll figure it out.
I would say they're for everybody.
No, they're in session.
Good evening, and welcome to the Mifflin County Farm Bureau General Election Measure Candidates Night. We open with a pledge to the flag and a prayer, so if you would please rise for that.
The last voting.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Heavenly Father, we gather here tonight as your servants as we try to make informed decisions on the election day coming up. We thank you, Lord, for the beauty of the season. As we look around outside, we see what nature has, all the different colors of the trees, and we know that you are responsible for that. We thank you for that we have enough food to eat, that we can be gathered here together and listen to these candidates and use the information they provide for us. We ask, Lord, you would be with them as they answer questions this evening, and be with us when we go to the polls a week from Tuesday. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. We have a somewhat abbreviated program tonight. Got a call about 3:10 this afternoon that Representative Benninghoff and Representative Rao will not be here. The House is in session. This is the last voting session day of this, last voting day of the session until after the election. They may be in chambers in Harrisburg till 11 o'clock tonight. They're not even sure what time. About 3:30, Senator Ward called and said she's not going to be able to make it because the Senate's going to be in session till about 7 o'clock. So, you know, she has an hour from Harrisburg to get here. So we somewhat limited tonight. We do have two candidates here tonight. We have Carol Taylor, who's opposing Judy Ward for the state senate. And we have Bob Ziegler, who is opposing Representative Benninghoff for the State House. I'd like to ask them to come up tonight. They can each take a table. They did indicate they were willing to answer some questions for us. They will have 1 minute to answer each question. They will have a minute summation, introduction, a minute per question, then we will have a 5-minute summation. They can use the lectern for their introduction and their summation, but we ask them to stay at the tables to answer the questions. So if you two candidates would please come up, we appreciate it.
Hello, folks. My name is Carol Taylor. I'm running for the 30th District Senate seat in Pennsylvania against Judy Ward. I thought probably, if you don't know me, I should give you a little background, so I'll use my minute for that, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. I grew up the daughter of a machine tool machinist and a secretary. I put myself through college and law school. I work in the addictions field now as an addictions counselor at residential rehab, which specializes in dual diagnosis, meaning they have mental health issues as well as addiction issues. I have a background in practicing law and teaching as well. So my focus in my campaign, of course, has been with concern for our communities in addressing the problems of addiction, which also leaks over to our criminal justice system, the health of our communities, productivity, families, and trauma and chaos. My other focus is education, having personal experience. Thank you.
Good evening, Mifflin County. My name is Robert Ziegler. I'm the Democratic nominee for the 171st District, taking on Majority Leader Karen Benninghoff. I live in a town called Mifflin. Hopefully you guys know where it's at. It's in Penns Valley. It's a great, beautiful farm country out there. And I've been on the Borough Council for about 4 years. Before that, and still now, I've got about 20 years of management experience, Penn State alum, and also done my master's in business administration and public administration. Basically, I'm just a guy who tries to figure out how things work and make it better and fix problems. And so I've done that from the local governance stance as well, where in the Mifflin Borough we had an issue with broadband. So in the Penns Valley area, I helped us get high-speed internet, faster speeds in Penn State, where there's Amish buggies for about 2,000 households. We've done solar, where we saved enough money, we cut taxes for everybody, and we raised our minimum wage to $15 an hour for our employees, because if you can't take care of your family, how can you take care of the borough? So we'll kind of do something Democrat, if you will, and I want to thank you for having me here.
First question. Given that 400 ambulance services have gone out of business in the last 3 years in the state of Pennsylvania, what are you willing to do to help this situation?
The question of family businesses is near and dear to my heart. My parents ran their own small business, so I worked in their office and watched them struggle through recessions. We can encourage those businesses by providing opportunities for growth. The American Rescue Plan has done some of that, and helping them through this difficult time. It also is important for them to be able to hire people who have training in both the trades and in community education. And so that's part of the problem, is they need trained personnel to help them with their business very often, and also in agriculture as well. Most likely what else needs to be done is is helping those businesses in terms of childcare and other resources that they can obtain. And government has been slow to respond to the problems right now with inflation and transportation. So we need to address that as well. Gas prices being what they are. Families are concerned about inflation. It affects businesses as well and their bottom line. So we need to look at energy conscious policy.
Do you mind repeating the question, please?
Given that 400 ambulance services have gone out of business in the last 3 years in the state of Pennsylvania, what are you willing to do to help this situation? Out where we are, rural EMS has been having a lot of trouble. Let's just be real about that. For myself, I helped negotiate free services when the late broadband came through and got them free services, free internet service. That helped them a little bit, but it wasn't enough. The local municipalities also chipped in. Some of them did property tax work, went specifically to them. Some did a local services tax. It all to help support the rural EMS. The real issue stems from the fact that the ambulances don't get properly funded by the insurance companies, and that is controlled by the state legislature. So in other words, holding insurance companies accountable so they actually properly fund the EMS and ambulance services is the key to make sure that they stay viable and successful. If elected, do you plan to maintain an office in or near Mifflin County?
Is my mic still working? And I apologize, I misheard your first question, so my response was more towards small business and family business. Yes, I believe it's absolutely necessary. I am in the Altoona area, but I believe it's important to maintain an office out here. And in fact, in canvassing, I have visited this county 3 or 4 times. I work full-time still, so it's been on the weekends, but I made it a special point to pay attention to the needs of the folks in this area. And I intend to do so if I'm elected.
Am I good to go? All right, so to answer your question, yes. So my goal is to have an office in Bellefonte in Center County and then one office in Lewistown, right in smack dab in the county. And then on top of that, I actually have a plan in place where I want to go, I call it the 23 Municipalities Initiative. With that, we go and visit actively every municipality, whether it's Kistler Borough, whether it's Minnow Township, whatever it is. So with that, we will actively be at every local leaders meeting, at least, well not every meeting, but at least 2 each year. One of us will be there, whether it's me or a staffer. Because my experience in a small municipality is that we're all elected from the state level. So to answer your question, yes, I'm definitely going to have an office in Mifflin County, likely Lewistown.
Do you favor property tax reform? And if so, how would you fund our local schools?
It's become glaringly obvious that property tax reform is necessary. There are inequities in terms of funding for education across Pennsylvania that depends on our tax base, which results in inequalities across the state. I do believe it is the state's responsibility to make sure that every child in this state has an adequate and actually excellent education that is equivalent to any other county in the region. So those areas where there isn't a tax base to support it, we are making efforts to equalize it, but I think more needs to be done to move away from the property tax structure to different funding for schools, so that there is more equality between one county and another in terms of the tax base being so different.
So in going into that, one, it's a loaded question, but the best way to answer it, I suppose, would be the most straightforward way. If the schools are properly funded to begin with from the state, as they should be, because Pennsylvania is one of the lowest in terms of funding from the state to the schools, the
property taxes will be less of an issue for you guys. It's just that simple. So now the school districts need to not be having their hands tied to how they can raise revenue. That's another thing. They're rather restricted in how they raise money. So they need to have more capabilities to raise funds. They also need to have more leverage in cutting costs and be more efficient. And the money should be following the students properly and held accountable all across the board with the same standards for everybody if they're receiving tax dollars. So to answer your question, if the state were to properly fund education as it should be, the property tax would be less of an issue. And if the school districts had more opportunity to raise funds more efficiently, it wouldn't be as much of a problem.
What is your position on climate? What should Pennsylvania do to combat the climate change?
Can you repeat the last part of the question?
What should Pennsylvania do to combat climate change?
Well, its dependence on fossil fuels is a problem for the future in creating jobs and also attacking climate change. We need to pull away to more sustainable resources in order to deal with climate change. Climate change deniers are doing more harm to this because we're not working on solutions to those problems. There are a lot of initiatives right now in terms of both emissions and farming practices, which have started on the path, and actually Pennsylvania has done quite well with moving towards a more climate-friendly attitude and policy. I think more needs to be done, but we have to be careful to not impact communities adversely. But I think it can be done in a way that encourages job growth for the communities and also is a win-win situation for the climate as well.
So you asked a good question for that one because we've done solar at the municipal level, and you know, solar currently is the cheapest form of electricity. It just is, and it's been saving us a lot of money. Variable cut tax at the local level. So to answer your question, with climate change, that's a real thing that's happening. And if you're farming, you know that something's happening and something's up. And to transition from where we're a very strong fossil fuel industry-driven economy, but we're also a very strong renewable energy economy. Actually, about 4 times more jobs on the renewable field, green energy field, compared to fossil fuels. So that is what the future is. But we do need to transition from fossil fuels effectively to get to renewable energy. And we also need to cap abandoned mines and cap the gas wells, things that have been abandoned by companies where they should have been held accountable to begin with. But we need to clean those messes up and make them better for the communities that are nearby that are affected by them.
Do you agree or disagree that the legislators should control a woman's body, health care, and the future of themselves? Do you believe women can and should make their own decisions about their lives?
Absolutely. Government interference in what is the most personal, private decision that a woman can make with respect to her reproductive rights, it's unthinkable. In terms of my opinion on it, I'm pro-choice. It's pretty well known. Roe versus Wade sought to strike a balance between that of a unborn fetus and the mother, providing safety for both. Pennsylvania, for the last 50 years, has followed Roe. And it has worked well. It had prevented disparities between those who have to travel from one state to another, and also encouraged the safety of the mother when medical procedure is necessary to save her life or in case of rape or incest. This decision is a spiritual one, it's a personal one, and it should be one made between the woman and her doctor.
You know, and I agree with my don't have the equipment. I literally don't know what a woman would go through for that experience. And for me to try to legislate accordingly, in all truth, the state should stay out of it. It's not really the state's place to tell a woman what she can and cannot do with her body. And the state should get out a few other things too, but that's a whole different issue. You know, we talk about these debates with things, but you know, if we truly supported people that are going through these issues and we wanted to carry them out the term, then we would have universal pre-K. We would have universal health care. We would have, or at least affordable health care. We would have more access to health care in the rural areas. We would have the infrastructure in place to help take care of things. We would have adoptions agencies be properly funded and supported. So, you know, it is a woman's right to choose.
What is your platform for fighting PA's drug problem, especially fentanyl?
I am an addictions counselor, as I stated earlier. What we don't have right now, what we're lacking, is an effective plan to deal with the addiction crisis, especially fentanyl, which is killing too much of a percentage of our young population. We have rehabs, we don't have enough care, we don't have enough mental health care, we don't provide aftercare. 21 to 28 days in a rehab does not magically change an individual's life. Very often they come to us after they have had personal trauma from a young age. They may have had parents who are addicted as well. They come from an environment of the streets where that's all they see. And then we incarcerate them, and so they're suffering from traumatization from incarceration. They don't know how to live a life that's other than what they've been living for years. So it takes long-term treatment, it takes more halfway houses, more recovery houses, and also a focus on mental health issues, because mental health issues fuel some of this crisis. So we need to take a full-pronged effect.
It's a matter of being proactive versus reactive. And we've stigmatized addiction problems and substance abuse as well as mental health issues as a nation. If we were to treat such things as public health issues instead of criminal issues, much like Portugal has done, that not only cuts down on the expenses of treatment and taking care of people, these people can get more acclimated back to society much quicker. And that helps drive the economy and helps reunite families from potentially deadly situations. What needs to happen is honestly the investment in the communities themselves and treating this as a public health issue. And if we were able to do that, we would be able to proactively handle these issues before they become serious issues. Will it completely stop it? No. Would it minimize it? Yes.
I'm not quite sure how to read you this question. I'm going to just throw it out there. What is your solution to keeping our children safe, whether it be at school or in their residential areas on a daily basis? I know it's.
I get to go first all the time. So. I think maybe the question is geared towards a couple of different things. Okay, first of all, keeping our children safe in their residential areas. I'm not sure if we're talking about gun violence here.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, okay. Hopefully my time hasn't started yet. I'm still working on the question. Obviously, we've had a serious growth in mass shootings, and including putting our children in danger in schools. And I have substitute taught for 3 years before working in the addictions field. And I've had to train kids on what to do should an active shooting incident occur. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to talk to children about this and where they can hide in classroom and what they should do under the circumstances. And it feels like something we shouldn't have to have a conversation about. Certainly security in the schools is an issue. safety in the schools, but that does not mean we should arm teachers. Teachers were meant to teach, not be armed guards. Secondly, we need to do something about gun violence in this nation, and I am in favor of red flag laws. I'm also in favor of not having assault weapons in the hands of 18-year-olds. It seems to me there's some common sense gun legislation that would help with the situation. It doesn't completely eliminate it, but at least in case of mass shootings and children in schools, we have a duty to protect them.
Much like with Carol there, I'm actually rated as a gun sense candidate, and I'm a rural person. I used to hunt all the time with my dad, and I learned the value of gun safety. The guns are stored in a safe area; they were locked away. They had you had all the safety features on. You had courses where people were taught how to do things and how to properly handle a gun, because it's a tool. However, we have a lot of things that people have been experiencing now that weren't experienced when I was a child. You have a lot of mental issues and mental health concerns that are popping up. You have usually 2 parents in a household that are working instead of just one. You don't have a constant figure there asking the kid what their day was like. So we have to account for, one, how can we make sure these families have enough that they can actually thrive, not just survive? And then 2, what can we do to make sure that we limit what type of guns can get in the hands of children and possibly have them use weapons of war? So we address those. That's how we can make things safer.
Are you in favor of fracking for natural gas in Pennsylvania?
I am not. I think that and I understand that there is a lot of discussion about this, but the track record of the companies that have done fracking and the amount of times that they've had to shut pipelines down due to issues with leakage and other problems and violations of the regulations lead me to be very concerned about fracking in Pennsylvania. The reason why I say this too is I understand that in terms of it being a solution, it is a solution with a very heavy problem on the other side. There are communities in Pennsylvania that can't drink their water. You can light their water on fire. It seems to me that the economic devastation that can occur as a result outweighs maybe the possible benefit. And so I would look to other resources for our growth and our economic well-being, but I feel that fracking tends to hurt communities in some cases. Tell that to the individuals who can't drink their water, their homes are no longer, they can't sell them and they're worthless, and they have health concerns.
So to answer your question, I'm also against fracking as it is currently done. However, if they had done the legislation correctly to begin with and not watered down the safety standards and precautions that were outlined years ago, a lot of the issues that we have now from it wouldn't have happened. So if it was done properly, I'd be open to it. But the way things are done now, with the amount of neglect of oversight, a lack of oversight, it's not worth pursuing. There's also a lot of permits there where they can have permits to go and drill and to extract, and they're not doing it. So, I mean, they were having permits to do it. I don't think we need to expand what's already available to them. They just haven't chosen, a lot of companies haven't chosen to do it.
Last question that I have in my hand. Do you have any idea how the state of Pennsylvania can help local farmers prosper?
Local farmers, what is the last part?
Prosper. Prosper.
Prosper. Okay, thank you. I think Pennsylvania in the Farm Bill has had an initiative where they're assisting with both preservation of farmland, money available to upgrade equipment to help the farmers go forth. A lot of community-based programs would be helpful as well. I think there isn't a whole lot of information about farming to the outlying communities that aren't involved in it. And I think as communities begin to treasure the farmland and the farmers that operate it, there may be more of a partnership between those communities and the farmers. In other words, a lot of local farms selling directly to consumers, and kind of a public relations improvement in that area. I think Pennsylvania needs to concentrate its efforts on the preservation of farmland and the preservation of the farms, because honestly, it is the very lifeblood of the state.
Yeah, I think that the state imposes changes on you guys with different standards and different things that you can spray and all that. I think they should help you make those transitions and work with you for that. I know with the Chesapeake Bay cleanup and everything, that's been putting really a big hurting on some of the farmers, at least in the Penns Valley, I know that for sure. And it's one of those things where the government imposed these things on you guys, and now you're left footing the bill when you already have rising prices of diesel and other things. And that's not really fair to you guys, especially when you literally feed the state. And I think making it easier for you to get better pricing from the big corporations that buy from you guys, and having more leverage with being able to sell different places, and just letting people know what you guys do. State college people don't know what the heck you guys do. Like, they don't know, I know. And just communicating and helping with the ag tourism as well, and fostering that. That's a big opportunity, and other symbiotic things that you guys can do with different industries. So I think that's a big opportunity there.
This ends the questions portion of this night's program. At this time, we will allow the candidates to have a 5-minute summation. We will reverse the order at this point, and Bob Ziegler will go first.
So first of all, thank you for having us here. I appreciate being invited. And I became a member of you guys, the Mifflin Farm Bureau, so I appreciate you guys taking my money. But in all seriousness, though, I really respect the work that you guys do. And from knocking a bunch of different doors down in Mifflin County, whether it's Kistler Borough, or Juniata Terrace, or McVeigh-town, Lewistown, West Granville, Mark knows when he knocked his door. The one thing that I hear that's very common is the amount of neglect that this county has gotten from the state. And I can't promise you that we're going to change the world by being in office, but I can promise you that I'm going to be visiting your municipalities, and I'm going to go to your picnics, and I'm going to eat your delicious food, and I'm going to be visiting and talking to you guys about what the issues are. I'm surprised I didn't see Stan here talking about different issues, because he is a very talkative man. I think, I know this is the time where I'm supposed to be wrapping up and talk about myself and all that, but the thing is, guys, it's really about you. And any candidate that's just going to talk about what they are and who they are, it's not really worth their vote. And really what we should be doing, we're talking about how we should help you, what we can do. Listening to you first is the first thing we do. Talking with you about potential solutions is the next thing. And then actually doing our job in Harrisburg to try to make it happen is the next. So my promise to you, and I don't like making promises I can't keep, if you get me to Harrisburg, and you help me get to Harrisburg, I'm going to do it. I'm going to listen. I'm going to work with you on solutions. And then we're going to try to implement it. I can't promise you anything, but I am a very determined person, as my wife would say, a nice way of saying something, to make some world change and to make things happen. And when I say I'm going to try to do something, I do my best to do it. So with that being said, thank you everybody for listening. If you have more questions for me later on, by all means ask me. I'm a shameless open book. And from here on out, I yield my time. Thank you.
I want to thank you for letting me speak to you tonight. I have to say, I didn't have much familiarity before this run with this area. but I've been out here 3 or 4 or 5 times, I don't even know, talking to the folks in this area about their concerns. Some of the things we didn't talk about tonight, like healthcare, transportation, lack of education in terms of, you know, having an available trade school, or community college, something. In Lewistown, a lot of the folks talk to me about those concerns. And I am concerned. I stand here in front of you as a person who wants to listen, as a person who's been an activist for causes in the past. Never saw myself on a podium running for office. But the reason why I'm running for office is because I feel like the voices of the folks in these areas have been largely forgotten and not very often ignored, whether on purpose or just because it was just not timely. I don't understand it, to tell you the truth. Because this area of Pennsylvania deserves the attention of people who are willing to work hard to see that your voices are heard and that your issues are dealt with. I don't believe in divisive politics. I don't believe in baiting the other party. What we need to do is work together in Harrisburg to solve problems. And we can't solve problems if we're paying lip service to issues that are non-issues and not working towards those problems. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to be asked here. And I don't make many promises either, but my promise to you, and I always keep my promises as well, so I make very few, is that Mifflin County will not be ignored. I do promise I will have an office here if elected, and I will be listening to your concerns, and I will be responsive to you. Because as I said earlier, the farmland is our heartland. And as things become more and more difficult across the country, Pennsylvania becomes more and more important. And I recognize that importance. And the same thing is true of our cities and towns like Lewistown, that are dealing with the addiction crisis, such as we are in Altoona. We need solutions. We need to start looking at the root causes and stopping it at the very start. But then we have to also deal with what is. And hopefully I can do that for you. Thank you.
On behalf of the Mifflin County Farm Bureau, I would like to thank both of these candidates tonight for participating in this forum. For those of you who are present, if you do have other questions for them, you can ask back behind the auditorium when we have our refreshment time. I'd like to remind you that a week from next Tuesday is Election Day. You can vote early if you want to. We ask you to turn out and vote and support the candidates. Make an informed decision. And that was part of why we have this tonight, is to help inform the voters so they can make a good decision when they go to the polls. And, you know, as I said, you know, only about 50% of the people are registered to vote, and only about 50% of them vote. So, you know, we'd like to see those numbers increase and more people become involved in our political process. Once again, thank you and good evening.